two glass bowl worktop cookers. Both claim to be faster than conventional ovens, but one is a best-selling halogen oven and the other one is a Ninja air fryer, and the air fryer is nearly 4 times the price of the halogen oven. In this video, I'm going to do a direct comparison between the two. You'll see 3 side-by-side cooking tests as well as energy costs, and look at the difference between the mechanics of these two appliances and how easy they are to clean. And at the end, you'll know whether it's worth stretching your budget or whether an old school halogen oven might just do the job. If you've just found this channel, my name is Clara and I'm here to demystify household appliances, bridging the gap between the marketing hype and the real world experience. Both of the appliances that you'll see in this video were purchased by me, and if you'd like to support this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Ever since air fryers went mainstream a few years ago, people have been comparing them to halogen ovens, which have been around for about 10 years longer than air fryers. Both were designed to be worktop appliances which were energy efficient and faster than conventional cooking. And when Ninja launched the glass bowl Crispi, the similarity between the two of them became even more obvious. The halogen oven has a plastic stand which a glass bowl sits in, then you add a metal rack to cook on, and the heater sits on top of the bowl. The Crispi has a glass bowl with a plastic stand which is permanently attached, then you add a metal crisper plate to cook on, and the heat pod sits on top of the bowl. But the mechanics of the heat pod are significantly different. The Crispi air fryer has a heating element with a high-powered fan which pushes hot air around the glass bowl. But the halogen oven uses a high-intensity halogen bulb to emit intense infrared radiation. Rather than running continuously like an air fryer, the bulb turns on and off to conserve electricity and keep the temperature in the bowl constant. This halogen oven claims to be able to do 6 types of cooking, but it actually has extremely basic controls. One dial to control the temperature and one dial which works as a manual timer ticking down the minutes. And unlike more expensive air fryers, there's no variable fan speed on the halogen oven. The Crispi, on the other hand, has 4 different settings, but on this portable model, there's no temperature control, just a digital timer. So let's get on to the 3 cooking tests and see how these ovens actually perform. My first cooking test was these frozen pastries. You'll see them pop up in a few of my videos. They're actually a really good, consistent way of measuring cooking speed. And they're one of the foods that actually first sold me on air fryers. They take 35 to 40 minutes in a fan oven, but you can usually shave about a quarter of that time off in an air fryer. The Crispi Portable has a setting labelled roast, but Ninja have actually told me it's the same as the American bake setting. And in my experience, it runs at close to 160 Celsius. So I tried one of the pastries on that setting. After 25 minutes, this is what the pastry in the Crispi looked like, which I think is a pretty acceptable result. The air fryer used 0.245 kilowatt hours of electricity, which would cost you about 7 pence at today's energy prices. With the halogen oven, I was able to set the temperature more precisely to 160 Celsius and the countdown timer to 25 minutes. After the 25 minutes had passed, this was what the pastry looked like. It was really undercooked and would have needed at least as long as the suggested oven cooking time to be ready to serve. The halogen oven used 0.194 kilowatt hours of electricity, costing 5 pence. But by the time the pastry was cooked through, it would have used at least as much electricity as the Crispi did. Round 1 finished with a clear win for the Ninja Crispi, but do not dismiss the halogen oven just yet, because there are still some surprising results to come. Next was a side-by-side test with 2 chicken breasts. I weighed them first and one was a fraction lighter. So as the halogen oven was slower last time, I gave it the slight advantage by giving it the slightly lighter breast. I set the halogen oven for 15 minutes at 200 Celsius, and on the Crispi I set it for 15 minutes on the air fry setting. Ninja say that this setting works like a 200 Celsius oven, but as I mentioned earlier, on this model you can't actually control the temperature. Both breasts started with the same internal temperature, and I used a wireless temperature probe to track the cooking progress. Despite starting at the same temperature, the halogen oven immediately started gaining a lead on the crispy, and after a couple of minutes, the chicken in the halogen oven was already 10 degrees warmer than the air fryer one. 5 minutes in and you could see a noticeable difference on the outside of both cuts of meat. Whilst the one in the halogen oven was almost completely white, there were still big areas of raw pink meat on the one in the air fryer. As cooking continued, the halogen oven maintained that 10-degree lead all the way through, eventually hitting 74 Celsius at the 15-minute point. It was another 3 minutes before the chicken in the air fryer reached the same temperature. Here's a look at the end result side by side. The halogen oven is on the left and the air fryer one is on the right. Both were well cooked through with similar levels of moisture and tenderness. And here's a look at the energy that both these ovens used. There's really nothing between them. Both use 6p of electricity at current energy prices, despite the fact that the air fryer ran for longer. So for round 2, the halogen oven was actually the surprising winner. For my final test, I decided to swap the Crispi for the Crispi Pro so that I could compare an air fryer with a bowl that was closer in size to the halogen oven and where I could set the temperature precisely. Unlike the halogen oven, which comes with a variety of accessories and 2 different height racks, the Crispi Pro only has one option of cooking height. So I was interested to see if the food being further away from the heat source was going to make the cooking time longer. These frozen chips say they should be cooked at 200 Celsius for 7 to 10 minutes. So I set the initial timer for 7 minutes, and after that length of time, the air fryer ones were already taking the lead. I put them both back on to cook for an additional 3 minutes, and here's what the 2 batches of chips look like side by side after 10 minutes. Energy wise, the halogen oven used 0.175 kilowatt hours and the Crispi Pro used 0.231 kilowatt hours, meaning the Pro would cost 1p more to run for 10 minutes. But of course the halogen oven hadn't actually cooked the chips in that time. Round 3 was a win for the Crispi Pro. So looking at the results of these cooking tests, on the surface they do appear to be slightly confusing. The air fryer being the clear winner with the chips and the pastry, but being slower to cook the chicken breast. As I mentioned before, Ninja say that the air fry setting on the Crispi Portable cooks like a 200 Celsius oven, and it should produce the most heat out of all 4 settings. But in reality, the temperature that I measured in the bowl on that setting was actually much lower, which shows that maybe it wasn't quite an equal test between the two. So on the cooking tests, it's a win for air fryers and proof that they aren't just reinvented halogen ovens. But there are a couple of other things that we haven't considered, which I'm going to very quickly touch on. Firstly, cleaning. The Crispi glass bowl is permanently attached to the plastic stand, which makes it slightly less easy to wash and dry. Whereas the halogen oven's bowl is completely separate and extremely easy to clean. They've even managed to make it very large, but just the right size to fit in a sink for washing. This particular model says that it's self-cleaning, but take that with a pinch of salt. Really what it means is that you can run the halogen oven with water in the bowl to aid with cleaning, which is something that you aren't supposed to do with air fryers, no matter what the TikTok cleaning hacks tell you. Also, it's easier to remove the screws on the halogen oven heat pod for cleaning and access to the space where the fan and bulb are. Secondly, capacity. The halogen oven is huge. It's 17 litres compared to the Crispi Pro, which is only 5.7 litres. And the halogen oven comes with a load of accessories which help you to make use of the full space in that bowl, as opposed to the Crispi, which just comes with a crisper plate. So I think the air fryer is still the winner, but do let me know what you think in the comments and whether you would consider going against the trend and buying a slightly retro but much cheaper halogen oven.